There is often a strange relationship between fact and fiction, between history and historical events, and the creative products of authors, whether intentional or unintentional. Today I'm going to talk about an unintentional relationship between the reforms of Cleisthenes the Alcmaeonid and the 1976 Kurt Vonnegut novel Slapstick. So let's get ready to get really silly and talk about death, about loss, about the soul deep loneliness of the soul, and about isolation. Let's talk about slapstick. Vonnegut explains in an extended prologue that the idea for the novel came to him in a dream he had on a plane on the way to his uncle's funeral. Vonnegut intended the novel to be a meditation on death and his relationship with his sister Alice. Vonnegut's sister died of cancer in 1958, 2 days after her husband died in a train accident. Vonnegut actually adopted and raised their 2 children. Vonnegut described slapstick as gross situational poetry, hence the title, and as the closest I will ever come to writing an autobiography, and about what life feels like to me. Slapstick is written as the autobiography of Dr. Wilbur Daffodil 11 Swain. The novel opens with Dr. Swain living in the ruins of the Empire State Building with his pregnant granddaughter and her lover. Dr. Swain reflects on his life. Born into extreme wealth, along with his fraternal twin Eliza, his extreme ugliness and the twins' seeming mental incapacity results in their parents deciding to exile them to isolation on a family estate and the care of indifferent servants. The twins discover that close physical contact between them unlocks a powerful shared creative intelligence. Through study and philosophical discussion, Wilbur and Eliza combat the loneliness and isolation that inform their childhood. Wilbur claims that Eliza is the more intelligent of the 2. Their intelligence works like they are 2 halves of the same brain. Wilbur is the left brain, logical, rational, able to communicate effectively, and Eliza is the right brain, creative, emotional, but unable to effectively communicate. Together they create, among other things, their plan to end loneliness in America. More on this to come. This strange collaboration and idyll ends when the twins reveal their intellect to their parents. Wilbur is accepted as a workable progeny and sent to a boarding school, and eventually he continues to Harvard and earns his doctorate. But due to her inability to read and write or communicate effectively, Eliza is still deemed mentally incompetent and sent to an institution, resulting in years of separation and eventually antagonism and alienation. After their father's death, Eliza is able to free herself from her institutionalization and gain a portion of their father's vast fortune. Meanwhile, Wilbur has become your average vain, self-absorbed, uncaring aristo. On the event of their first reunion, Eliza calls Wilbur a fascist, delivering the epic line, "Fascists are inferior people who believe it when people tell them they are superior. Then they want everyone else to die." Eventually, during this meeting, they touch and reclaim their singular dual strange genius. Then they have a week-long orgy. And also write a treatise on child-rearing that becomes the most popular book in the world. They both suffer a physical collapse in the aftermath, leading to them deciding it is for the best to stay apart in the future. Eliza going so far as to move to the Ayn Rand-style rich people haven from the decline of the U.S. of Machu Picchu. They only even speak to one another one more time when Eliza helicopters over Wilbur's Harvard graduation party to recite poetry to him over a bullhorn, and for him to tell her he loves her, which she responds to with, "I heard you. Nobody should ever say that to anybody." And then she gives him a valedictory blessing. Wilbur marries, has a son he is uninterested in, divorces, loses his mother and Eliza, and ages. Finally, he finds himself during a period of environmental distress and epidemic, running for president. His platform is the plan that he and Eliza came up with in their childhood to end loneliness in America. His slogan is, "Lonesome no more." The plan. Lonesome no more. Under this plan, every American would be given a new middle name that would consist of a noun connected by a hyphen to a number between 1 and 20. Every American with the same noun would be as cousins to the individual, and every individual with the same number would be as a sibling. Wilbur and Eliza's social revolution changes the way Americans relate to one another and conceptualize family. Every individual has hundreds of thousands of relatives. These giant families socialize, provide each other with all manner of support, from emotional to financial, and they self-police. When the economic and environmental and disease stressors on the U.S. finally lead to the end of the Union, Wilbur and Eliza's extended family social system still remains intact because it has provided the people with something they need: an end to loneliness, solace in the face of adversity, and something to belong to that also belongs to them. People to care about and care for that will also care for them. And a lot of them. It is my favorite Vonnegut novel, and you might be thinking, yeah, but something like that could never happen in real life. It's just so revolutionary and impracticable to change the way people think about themselves and their personal identity. Well, so what does this have to do with an Athenian politician from the 5th century BC? Excuse me. Well, like Wilbur, Cleisthenes is an aristocrat born, a member of the powerful political family, the Alcmaeonidae. Like Wilbur, Cleisthenes was born and came to manhood during a time of political upheaval. In his case, the tyranny of the Pisistratidae, Pisistratus and his successors Hippias and Hipparchus. Also, like Wilbur, Cleisthenes rejected certain aspects of his inherited social status. Having been defeated by his political rival Isagoras, the son of Tisander, a former supporter of the tyrants, in the political clubs, that is to say, among aristos, Cleisthenes won the support of the common people by promising to give the state into their hands, effectively turning his back on his own class. Fearing the mass popularity Cleisthenes accrued, Isagoras drew upon a long-held superstition that the Alcmaeonidae were a cursed family, to whip up fear of the accursed, causing Cleisthenes to flee the country in secret. This propaganda campaign coincided with Isagoras' ally, Cleomenes the Lacedaemonian, arriving with a small army and expelling a further 700 accursed families. This done, Cleomenes planned to dissolve the council and to make Isagoras and his supporters the masters of the city. a city that had only recently seen the end of the tyranny. So, when the council put up a resistance and a mob began to gather, Cleisthenes and Isagoras, with their troops and adherents, were forced to flee to the Acropolis. There they were besieged by the common people of Athens for 2 days. On the third day, Cleisthenes and his Spartans were allowed to withdraw under a truce. Cleisthenes and the other accursed families were recalled. The expulsion of the Lacedaemonians, having been accomplished by the common people, resulted in their attainment in their first taste of any degree of meaningful political power, and Cleisthenes became their chief, the leader of the people, for it could hardly be denied that the Alcmaeonidae had played the most important role in the overthrow of the Pisistrations, tyrants, having almost incessantly made political trouble for them, starting with Megacles and Pisistratus himself. So then, for these reasons, the common people trusted Cleisthenes and made him the leader of the people. From which position Cleisthenes, like Wilbur, proceeded to revolutionize the social system of Athens. He also further revolutionized the political system in a way that began to finally bring Athens to approach the ideal of direct democracy that it would one day embody. It was, in my opinion, Cleisthenes, definitely not Solon, who was the first politician to firmly set the Athenians upon the path to true democracy with his political reforms. Solon might be a precursor to the birth of the ideal, but it was Cleisthenes who was its progenitor. Further democratization was a result and built upon the sweeping changes he made, and indeed may not have been possible without it. But Cleisthenes' political reforms are not the focus of this video, having no real parallel to Dr. Swain and Slapstick. Maybe I will return to this another time. For now, let's talk about the social reforms of Cleisthenes. Before Cleisthenes, the Athenians were divided into 4 tribes, each of which was subdivided into clans and phratries. Loyalty was to the individual's tribes, clans, and phratries, even above the state. The 4 tribes were extremely powerful and often quarrelsome. Council membership was decided by each tribe, and therefore contributed to concentrating power in the hands of the few. Cleisthenes redistributed the population into 10 tribes, allowing many more people to be admitted to the citizenship, that is to say, to have a vote and a share of political power, and also to break up the existing alliances and rivalries of the old tribal system and dilute the power of the tribal elders. Thus, the origin of the saying that was old in Aristotle's time, "No tribe investigations," directed at those who wanted to check on family backgrounds and exclude people from the citizenship. He enlarged the council, the boule, from 400 to 500, taking 50 from each tribe instead of the previous 100, further diluting the power of any individual tribe and its allies. At the same time, he divided the whole country into 30 parts composed of demes, 10 from the city, quarters, 10 from the shore district, and 10 from the interior. These parts he called tritias, and assigned 3 of them by lot to each tribe in such a way that each tribe would have 1 portion from all the main regions of the country. He made the people who lived in each deme fellow demesmen, so that they would not, by addressing each other by the names of their fathers, call attention or expose the newly enrolled citizens, but would call each other by the names of their demes, serving the twofold purpose of allowing new citizens to feel more comfortable in their citizenship and giving all citizens a new basis for loyalty and kinship to their demes and demesmen rather than to the traditional tribal loyalties, or in addition to, of clan and phratry. Adding to and redefining the bonds that united the citizens of Athens. And decreasing loneliness? I would say yes. Specifically the loneliness of new citizens. Even if partially motivated by motives of social control and diluting the power of the tribes, the result was more kinship and loyalty across different subsections of the citizenship, like Wilbur. He also established the demarchs with the same functions as the former nocreri, replacing the nocracies by the demes. He named some of the demes after the localities, others after their founders, for not all of them were still connected with their localities. But he let everybody retain their family connections, their membership in a brotherhood, and their family rights according to ancient custom. He assigned to the tribes as eponymous heroes 10 archegetae who had been selected by the Delphic oracles from a previously chosen group of 100, giving people another source of kinship and belonging. Aristotle himself remarks that after these reforms, the political structure became much more democratic than under Solon. There you have it. The strange similarity between the reforms of Cleisthenes and Slapstick. Just for the record, I would very much like to have a middle name that gave me hundreds of thousands of cousins, a number that gave me as many siblings, and an eponymous hero for my city that was also part of my own name. Couldn't we all use a little more of a feeling of belonging? Don't we all get lonely sometimes? Thank you.